Hey, welcome back to another video. Today I will be doing a fuel pressure gauge install on my 6.0 Power Stroke. This is one of the fairly important parameters you should be monitoring on your 6.0, but there's just no pressure sensor from the factory, so you have to wire in your own aftermarket sensor and gauge to get a reading on that. And I'll be doing that today. My install is probably going to be fairly sloppy, but it'll work and it'll help me monitor my engine health to make sure that everything is running correct. Fuel pressure is very important on these 6.0s. With low fuel pressure, your truck will run like crap. It'll possibly even die out on you. It'll hurt your injectors. That's why the 6.0 Blue Spring upgrade kit is so important. It bumps up your fuel pressure from stock just a little bit. It kind of works like a fuel pressure regulator, and what that does is it helps keep your injectors fuller. I suppose it bumps up the PSI from your fuel pump to your injectors, and that in turn just helps your injectors live a little bit longer. I would say it's fairly important to have a fuel pressure gauge in your truck. I know there are aftermarket manual ones that you can hook up temporarily for diagnostics purposes, but to have one in the truck and being able to see it as you're driving is, in my opinion, fairly important. You never know what could happen. You know, your fuel could gel up, and you'd want to see that, or your truck's running rough, and you want to see where your fuel pressure is at, and that'll help you kind of diagnose what's going on these trucks, and I assume other trucks. The fuel pickup in the tank can get clogged. You know, after 200, 250,000 miles, you know, that's a lot of gallons of diesel flowing through that pickup. And that's kind of like your first filtration device. And I mean, you don't know how clean the diesel coming out of the pump is. It typically is fairly clean, but you know, little bits of dirt, sticks, just crud can get into your tank and over time clog that pickup and starve your engine of diesel, and that's no good. So I'm kind of preparing to get this truck ready for a long trip. I'm going to put this fuel pressure regulator in, or fuel pressure gauge in, to monitor my fuel pressure, and if it's good, it's good. If it's low, that would be something I would like to know now rather than on the road, and I can fix it here and now before it becomes too much of an issue. But anyways, let's get started, and first things first, we're going to go under the hood. So what we're working on is the fuel housing here. The Blue Spring upgrade is under this weird looking metal piece. I've done that before, but there is a fuel port kind of down here a little bit. So you got to take this charge air piping off, and then that'll give us better access to that port, and that's where we're going to screw the sensor in. And once the sensor's in, it's just a matter of wiring that sensor into the cab to the gauge. So there we go. There's that port right here, and that's where we're going to be tapping in our sensor. But first, let me show you what I will be using to do this install. All right, so what I have is the gauge pod. This will just sit on my dash. Some people like to use the A-pillar triple pod or double pod or single pod, but I don't want to take off my my handle, so I'm just going to use this pod on the dash. Got two of these. These are fuse taps. This will give me power for just switched power, and then the other one will give me power for headlights. So the headlight signal will cause the gauge to dim when I have my headlights on. You need this adapter. This will adapt the fuel bowl housing to a standard thread pitch for the sensor. I went with a glow shift fuel pressure sensor, and in the box is the gauge, of course, sensor and the wiring in the cab. Sensor and the wiring in the cab, and then there's a harness for power, ground, and switched, like headlight switch. But yeah, that's about it. And let's get to it. Alright, so this is the adapter for the 6.0 fuel bowl to pressure sensor. And I'm just going to thread these together outside of the vehicle and then install the whole thing as one unit. So it doesn't have to be too tight, just snug. There we go. And that red gunk, I believe, is what seals up the threads, so I don't think I need Teflon tape with that. And that rubber O-ring is what will seal this to the bowl. So when you're tightening that, don't over tighten it and squish that too badly. Alright, that is fairly snug, and what I can do at this point is hit the switch, or hit the key, just key on engine off, and see if anything leaks. And I don't see any leaks, so I think we're okay. There's a lot of air that needs to be purged out just from sitting with that bolt or that plug out. It sucked up some air, but I don't see any leaks, so I think we're okay. So here's an interesting find. You see that screwdriver? I put that in the hole, but the hole was there before I bought the truck. I didn't make that hole. So I think I'm going to use that hole to route my wiring into the cab. And let's go in the cab and I'll show you where it comes out. So it's actually pretty convenient where it does come out. Right there. That big wiring harness, and that gives me plenty of room to route my wires as I need to. So not bad. That's what I'm going to use. So this is how it is routed. So you can see sensor there. Comes around the air box. Yours is there, under there. And then all the way down into the rubber grommet. So what I'm doing right now is I realize these wires are super thin. So I'm gonna solder them to some thicker wire so that when I attach them to these guys, it's a little more of a strong connection. And I was reading up on the directions and I totally forgot this thing needs constant 12 volts to save your color and whatnot. So because the orange is optional, all it does is dim by I think it said 30%. Where does it say that? Yeah, right there. So it'll only dim the gauge by 30%. I can live with full brightness at nighttime. It's no big deal. I could always just cover it or something, or turn it away from my eyes if it's getting too bothersome. So Forget the orange. We need yellow, black, red. Red is constant, yellow is switched, and of course black is ground. So that's what I will do. One of these will be constant, and one of these will be switched. And then just tap the black into a OEM ground, or maybe find a little O-ring thing and ground it out myself. So that's the plan. That's what I'm gonna do right now. Okay, so not the greatest, I know, but I did properly solder them, heat shrink it, and then this tape is just for extra reinforcement so it doesn't pull apart. Got the black to this black, white with red little strip, little red bits there. Yellow is now green, and red is this black with white stripe. This is all just extra wire I had laying around in an old engine harness that I chopped up. So colors don't matter. I mean, this is my own project, my own truck. I know what I'll have done. I'm sure I'll remember down the road. No problems there. So yeah, now time to take it back into the truck, route the wires, find the fuses that I need, and then we'll be good. Hook it all up and see if it works. Here in the truck, I'm looking for constant 12, which I found. This is the fuse for the horn. As you know, the horn is always energized, just a safety issue. And now I'm looking for a switched 12. Just looking online for the fuse layouts. Trying to find something that's switched 12. So still work in progress, but I thought I'd take a little break and show you the means that I'm getting this power. So what this is a fuse tap, and this is your load fuse that you're tapping into the circuit with. So that fuse covers your device, whatever's being powered, and then the fuse that you take out, you slot in to that top slot, and then you plug this in. It can only go in one of two ways. I mean, physically it can go in both ways, but only one leg, or only one side of the fuse is energized. That's what a fuse does, is it takes the energized part and it runs it through the fuse portion so it pops instead of grounding out and starting a fire. So you may have to try it both ways to get it to work, but this is a fairly clean method of doing it. So yeah, looking for the switched 12 volts right now, and then I will hook everything up and give it a test run and see how it goes. All right, so test run was a success. I ended up tapping the switched 12 volt into the wiper circuit. So as you know, the wipers only come on if the key's on, so that was good. Constant from the horn, and I just have a temporary alligator clipped ground on there. But let me show you that it all works. Key. There we go. And it looks like I have about 70 psi of fuel pressure. That's not bad, not bad. There we go, holding 70 at idle. So far, so good. So now time to finalize everything and put it up on the dash. All right, so this is pretty much the final product here. This will just sit up here. Maybe some double-sided tape or something to hold it. I ran the wires through this little gap here. I don't know if Ford intended that for gauges or if it's just poor gap panel fitment. Down here, ran the wires back through there, and they go up. They go up back there. Same with the sensor wires. It comes out of that grommet, just goes straight up. Kind of fished it with what I used were these metal zip ties. fed it through the top, taped the plug to the end of that, and then just fished it out. Yeah, that's about it. Just need to clean up, put the panels back on, and we'll be in good shape. So this is with the truck at idle. It looks like I'm getting a solid 72-ish PSI. So not bad. That's pretty good. That's what I was hoping for. So my thoughts on this fuel pressure install. This is definitely more like insurance rather than a performance upgrade or a must-have. I would highly recommend it though. Like I said earlier, it is very important to monitor your fuel pressure, know where you're at. If your fuel tank has, or if your truck has like 200,000 miles, that has been a lot of diesel through your fuel tank. Your pickups may not be in the best shape, but seeing from the gauge, it looks like I'm still pretty good for now. I do want to drop the tank later down the road and clean up the pickups just to be on the safe side. Reliability, that's all about being on the safe side, doing preventative maintenance. But the gauge in itself is, just a good warning sign for, gelled up fuel. That cold snap in the Midwest, a lot of posts on diesel forums were about truck won't start, fuel's gelled, what do I do? And, if someone had like a fuel pressure gauge, they could tell that they're not getting fuel, and, they might not crank on it so hard or for so long and potentially damage their injectors in the case of a 7.3 or a 6.0, or their high pressure fuel pump like in the case of like a Cummins or a Duramax. The injectors are fairly hardy, but you still don't want to run low pressure on them. Low pressure for a prolonged period of time can damage your injectors. In fact, it probably will damage your injectors, and that's just not something you want to risk. This fuel pressure gauge, the little single pod and the adapter were about $120. Install was maybe like an hour and a half while filming, so it's not bad. That's to me, $120 is worth the peace of mind of knowing that my fuel system is operating as it should, or as close to as it should as I can tell from the fuel pressure gauge. So yeah, that's about it. Like this video if you enjoyed watching me install this fuel pressure gauge. Sub to the channel if you haven't. Hit that notification bell. I'm going to do a lot more Power Stroke stuff, more drift stuff, more Prius stuff in the coming videos. So be sure you're subscribed for that so you can see when it comes out. But anyways, thanks for watching, and that'll do it. I will see you next time.